Dementia Researcher with a blogger narrating.
It isn't just humans. It is the fact that most of our understanding about neuroscience and how the brain works is based not on studying humans but on other animals. How a nerve cell works came from studies on animals such as squid, sea anemones, cockroaches, even crabs. From these fundamental studies came the understanding of action potentials and even how simple nerve circuits work, specifically how nerve cells talk to each other. And of course, how nerve cells talk to each other leads to the fundamental question of what is a memory? This question will be answered in lots of different ways, usually dependent on the type of scientist you are talking to. But the fact remains we still really don't know. Somehow the physical connection at that synapse can hold information in a form that we interpret as a memory. Fast forward, and of course scientists started to use more complex animals from birds, rodents, and other mammalian species. Then in the latter part of the 20th century, as technologies advanced exponentially, we started to look directly at human material. Indeed, to paraphrase the Nobel Prize winner Sidney Brenner, who used a type of worm in his neuroscience, he predicted that the animal model for the 21st century was called man. Part of me feels that we have forgotten our comparative physiology and pathology roots, and certainly when I first started working on dementia, there was an unwritten central dogma that only humans could suffer dementia. Well, that turns out to be totally untrue. My own interest in spontaneous models of non-human dementia came from an observation at home one Saturday morning. Cardhu, one of my favourite cats, was becoming increasingly odd in his behaviour, forgetting where his food was, confusion of where he was in the flat, made banshee noises at night, and unfortunately also forgetting where the litter tray was. In talking to my wife, Danielle, who happens to be a world specialist on cats and was recently awarded an OBE for services to feline medicine, I asked her, "Do cats get dementia?" Cognitive dysfunction syndrome was the term used in veterinary circles, but it led to Danielle and I looking for the pathology signs of dementia, specifically Alzheimer's disease, amyloid plaques and modified tau, in cats who had died with neurological problems. Fast forward, we saw tau pathology and an odd-looking amyloid deposition. We were not alone. Others had looked at dogs where the amyloid deposition looked like human form, but the tau form looked normal. Some years later, I went to a talk by Sir Simon Lovestone entitled Diabetes, Dementia and the Killer Whale. In this lecture, Simon was proposing that other animals that live a long time but stop reproduction quite early, like humans, might also display signs of dementia. This sparked a memory because after Danielle and I had published our cat work, a PhD student from Spain contacted me saying they had a small bit of data on dolphins from strandings, but didn't know what to do with it. Cue a publication with all of us on Alzheimer's disease in humans and other animals, a consequence of post-reproductive lifespan and longevity rather than aging. This was further continued by then a chance meeting in a pub with someone I hadn't seen in 30 years. Mark Douglas was a veterinary pathologist who routinely took samples from cetacean strandings around Scotland. Q work carried out then showed that the 3 different species of dolphins around Scotland showed similar pathology signs as we see in humans, which led in both cases to many media interviews. When you start to look more closely, it turns out that our fellow animals also have the capability of getting dementia. Indeed, recently from the work of a talented final year undergraduate project student, we have published a summary of domestic animals, farm animals and sea mammals. Now, I stress I'm not advocating the use of these animals for testing of a new compound. Heaven knows how much lecanemab or donanemab you would need for a whale. But it is the fact we are not unique, and other species, if they live long enough, can show signs of developing dementia. Personally, I think a more interesting question can be asked of why do some animals don't get dementia? In the same way we have found the blind mole rat seems to be immune to cancer, while some animals, which live a long time, appear to be immune to dementia. So what for the future? Well, the US is about to embark on stopping all animal research, which of course has underpinned human disease research. How this will impact in Europe, no one quite knows, but it's based on the premise that we can take human skin cells and make them into nerve cells and then mini organoid brains. We also can produce enormous amounts of human data very quickly. though we still have a fundamental issue that we can't take biopsies of the human living brain, and so we look for proxies in other bodily fluids. This is all great, but we must remember that humans are not the only species that can get dementia, and we can both benefit. As my wife Danielle says, human studies have been fantastic at informing her how to treat her cats.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.